Now, the company dropped 19.27 billion yen, which is about 132.7 million bucks at an average price of 15.6 million yen per coin, and they're not stopping anytime soon. Their new plan, dubbed the 555 million plan, aims to acquire 210,000 BTC by 2027, which just happens to be 1% of Bitcoin's total supply from one company in Japan. They're already up over 315% year to date on their Bitcoin yield metric. And the funding strategy? We're talking bond issuances, equity plays, and smart capital allocation. This isn't Dogecoin on a balance sheet. This is a multinational building an institutional war chest out of digital scarcity. Metaplanet even retired multiple bond series early by using gains from stock warrants, or in other words, they're playing corporate finance chess while the rest of the market plays Candy Crush on leverage. Now, with over 654.7 million common shares issued and rising Bitcoin prices per share metrics, they're setting the gold standard for what a Bitcoin-first public company actually looks like. If they hit their 210 coin target, they'll have more Bitcoin than most countries. And yes, my friends, that's very bullish, because in a world of melting fiat, corporate accumulation is a long-term price floor dressed as a press release. Preston, we're bringing you back. Metaplanet is going full-on Michael Saylor in a kimono. How significant is it that a Japanese firm is now leading the corporate accumulation race?
Well, if I was a Coinbase shareholder, and I was looking at the treasury of Bitcoin that I've accumulated over more than a decade by being in business, and I'm looking at this small one hotel is the operating company of Metaplanet, and now they have a bigger treasury than Coinbase. I would be extremely upset if I was a shareholder of Coinbase. Like, this is embarrassing. Like, they're mopping the floor with the CFO of that company, and just anybody who's looking at this from the outside is saying, what in the world is this company doing? I forget what they IPO'd at, but it was probably close to $100 million, or I'm sorry, $100 billion. Like, it is nuts. Mm-hmm. So what they're doing is they're putting on a clinic, and I have to say that the regulatory setup in Japan is making this extra conducive for them to put on a clinic. But for anybody that's looking at this from the outside in, when you have a company that's trading at 4.6 to 5 times the NAV, you're able to do crazy creative things with respect to how much Bitcoin you can accumulate in this setup. And so as long as they continue to trade it at that kind of premium of the MNAV on the company, like, they're going to continue to run the table of accumulating Bitcoin onto the balance sheet, because when you do that, you're buying it for an 80% discount effectively compared to anybody else. And when you're buying it at an 80% discount, guess what? You can go out there and you can securitize more fixed income against that massive treasury that's sitting there on your balance sheet. And then it's just this reciprocal engine that continues to run. And as long as they don't change the regulatory treatment of Bitcoin over in Japan, these guys are going to continue to clean house. So, if you're a company with, billion-dollar operations, and you're in Bitcoin and you're not trying to learn from a company like this, like, you need to really wake up, is my guidance.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on that. And I think we are starting to see that slowly but surely from a lot of other companies as they're stacking it on their balance sheets, but not quite at the rate of Metaplanet. They have been quite persistent so far. But I know Michael Saylor's like, respect, guys, I like your play. In fact, Metaplanet's 555 million. Go ahead.
If I was Michael, I'd be really jealous just of the sheer size. I mean, this is like, he's steering a big ship, and these guys are, steering a sports car because it's smaller. They're just more agile. They have a regulatory setup that everybody wants to own this, because the treatment for them to hold like raw, spot Bitcoin is very disadvantageous to them. And I mean, they are in a very unique position to continue to run the table at a pace that makes anybody in the world jealous. Like, it is crazy. I know I'm jealous.
It is crazy. I think we all are. They've got a nice bag going right now, and they have plans to get 210,000 Bitcoin in the next like 2 years, which would be 1% of the total supply. Do you feel like this is just headline math, or are they actually setting a precedent for balance sheet optimization in a fiat endgame type scenario? I mean, this is wild what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't think that they're throwing out numbers to just like create marketing. I think that they're truly going after these numbers, and I think when you look at the rate at which they've been able to go at it, like it's justified. And again, the premium over the MNAV is what's really kind of allowing this to take place. If they were at a 1.5, kind of like where Strategy's at, they couldn't run the table like they're running the table. But up in these areas where they're at, as long as they can kind of hold that in place, which is super speculative, I have no idea whether they can continue to run an MNAV that high. But if they do, like, watch out, they're gonna be moving faster than anybody on the planet.
Yeah, but I got to say, they do seem to have fun with the numbers. I think their previous holding total was like 11111, and then their most recent purchase was like 12345 or whatever. So it seems to be like Garovich at least has a sense of humor about him as he's funding all of this through bond issuances and warrant plays. Do you feel like this is setting the stage for the future of corporate, capital strategy in a Bitcoinized world using these, methods to acquire more BTC on your balance books?
Two things. Yes, it is, but I would say in the short term, I think you see this really play out in the coming 10 years. After that, everybody's going to probably be thinking in Bitcoin terms anyway, because it's going to become that obvious within 10 years. So in the short term, though, in the coming 4 to 5 years, you have this gold rush of how can I put as much of this stuff on the balance sheet as possible by taking advantage of how broke fixed income markets are, and the yields associated with fixed income markets, and just levering the fact that Bitcoin is very early and is going to continue to appreciate and have a huge network effect. The point that you're making on the really unique numbers, one of the things that's really advantageous to these companies that are doing this is the more speculators that come into the market, the more advantageous it is for the management in order to run this strategy. So by them doing things that are quote unquote memeable, I think is very advantageous to attract more and more speculators into the market, which allows them to, take advantage of that MNAV and, do really fun and creative things.
Yeah, no, I agree. It seems kind of typical too for this arena, right? Like since it's kind of birth, it seems like crypto and Bitcoin has kind of had this kind of fun playfulness to it, and I feel like they're kind of utilizing that to help get some more headlines and doing it masterfully. As I talk about Metaplanet almost every freaking day, so kudos to them. Let's say Metaplanet hits their 210 Bitcoin goal by 2027. What do you think that does to price discovery? And what does that do to the competitive pressure on other global firms trying to acquire Bitcoin going forward? Is this just, I feel like we are early. This is just the beginning of this happening, right?
I mean, it's just really unfair.
It's just really.
I mean, that's all. It's really unfair because they're going to accumulate so much Bitcoin, and at the end of the day, like we're not making any more of it, and more people are going to figure this out, and more people are going to realize that if they're not denominating everything in terms of Bitcoin, they're not conducting sound economic calculation as to what the value of anything is, and we're not even to the point where equity is being revalued in Bitcoin terms, or at least 99%, 99.9% of the world isn't. But for those, one or the 10th of a percent that's out there that is doing this, they realize that you have to try to attract as much of this onto your balance sheet as possible, and then you can figure out which operational businesses at very good prices you should acquire next, which is, I think at the earliest 5 years out, and probably more likely at the 7 to 10 year mark out. Because, think about it. If Bitcoin's growing at 50% annualized, 40 to 50% annualized, and you could go out and buy a company at 5 times earnings, 5 times earnings means you're buying the company at a 20% return, which is half the performance of Bitcoin, right? And that's,
Right.
and this is all like pre-tax numbers. So like getting a company at 5 times earnings that actually has a sustainable competitive moat and has, you know, risk associated with it, like it's not even a hard decision. This is a brainless decision that you wouldn't make today unless you're doing it as like a small engine inside of like a treasury company or something like that. Then it makes sense. But for the most part, like you would not do your entire business on, you wouldn't buy a $100 million business at 5 times earnings if that was the whole market cap of the company and Bitcoin wasn't involved, just because of the numbers.